That was fabulous. You all are fabulous. If there was ever a way to start off this day of coming together, that was it, which is we are all here, we are all together, we all have a plan, and we will all deviate from that plan whenever it needs to happen and do our best in that, and that's fabulous. So good afternoon. Okay, in the spirit of John Cooney, good afternoon. Bravo! Thumbs up from the balcony. John and team, thank you, the tech team, for today. That's awesome. Welcome. Welcome to yours, mine, our Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Redwood City, California. Our mission at UFRC is to be a welcoming and inclusive community of individuals of all ages who seek spiritual meaning, empower personal growth, build connections with our neighbors, act for justice, and inspire others to join us. I am Chris DeCardy. I'm a member of this fellowship and our worship committee. My pronouns are he, him, and it is my honor to represent everyone who is or who has previously served on our worship committee in deeply welcoming you all here today. So welcome. Welcome to everyone in the sanctuary. It is wonderful to look out and see our building as full as it has been in any time over the last 2 years. Simply wonderful. And welcome to those of you joining by video conference today. It is perhaps even more wonderful, even incredible, to have you with us and to also recognize this ability as a testament to the resilience, the innovation, and the leadership of members of our fellowship who have built this capacity over the past 2 years, core of them sitting up in the loft right now. So thank you. I want to pause and particularly welcome one person who is joining us remotely today from Red Morton Park, where she is setting up for our reception after this service. I think perhaps more than half of this fellowship has helped directly in some way in preparing for this day. But if many hands make light work, Jessica Stoutemeyer's many hands have made that work lighter and more joyous for all of us. Jessica, thank you. Thank you. And a particularly special welcome today to our new friends, perhaps joining us for the first time, friends of UUFRC, friends of Reverend Brian, friends, clergy and lay leaders who will be joining us in a minute, from other UU congregations and institutions. We are humbled and grateful that you've chosen to be with us on our special day. So let's take a moment and really recognize that we are here together. In a second, I'm going to ask each of you to turn to the person to your left, to the right, behind, and in front, and do one simple thing. Look them in the eye and recognize that you both are here in this moment. And to those of you on Zoom, look at those squares next to you and around you. And I know that's hard to do, but it's doable. We've proven that we can do that. And recognize that distance in geography does not mean distance in spiritual connection. So let's go ahead and do that now. Just take that minute, everybody. I don't know how those of you are doing on video conference, but in here, you could imagine that we could make the whole rest of the afternoon about that moment, which is splendid. We have such a connection and we have so much to catch up on. At the same time, let us take a moment and recognize that today many people important to our community are not here. Some simply can't be here, while others have left us in the past few years, some who've moved away, and others who we have mourned deeply because they have left this world. So take a moment to sit in thought and recognize these vital members of our fellowship and that they are with us in our hearts today. If you are holding something or someone close today that you would like to recognize, please, at any point in the service, come up to the left or the right of the chancel and light a candle in that recognition. If you're at home, please do the same and hold that in your eyesight through the course of the service. Thank you. All right, so all of these welcomes and the recognition of those who are not with us today raise, I think, one basic question. Why are we all here today? So, Unitarian Universalism, as we all know, is characterized by a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We assert no creed, but we're unified by our shared search for spiritual growth. We are guided by a dynamic living tradition, a tradition that draws from sources as diverse as science, poetry, scripture, and the individual experiences of each one of us. As part of that, rituals, celebrations, and ceremonies, these are faith-sustaining traditions deeply embedded in the wide array of spiritual, moral, and philosophical threads that Unitarian Universalists draw on as we seek to ever weave our beloved community. In our faith tradition, one such celebration is a ministerial installation, a congregation's act of formally entering into shared ministry with their professional minister. This service today formally celebrates the covenantal relationship, the promise that we have as a congregation and with Reverend Brian. We all know, and I do not need to review, that these past few years have been uniquely stressful for each of us and for our UUFRC community. No matter how smoothly it goes, a ministerial transition adds some disruption and uncertainty. That has been a lot to move through. And yet, here we are at this moment of celebration today, a celebration of joyful resolution to the ministerial search and reaffirmed commitment to each other. That's pretty awesome. That's really awesome. So in preparing for today, I was reviewing the UUA guidance on installation services. And at one point, I smiled when I read this, that the installation service is frequently, evidently for many congregations, the first big project that a congregation undertakes with its new minister. And I thought, ha! What big project haven't we taken on with Reverend Brian so far? We indeed have so much to celebrate today, not just in the promise of our joint commitment, but in its fact. And that is really cool. It is so appropriate, then, that we gather on May 1st, a day set aside in many traditions to officially mark the end of winter, the fallow season, and celebrate the promise of spring and renewal, growth, and opportunity. So let's get going. As a first step, take a breath. Really, take a breath. Silence those electronic and other distractions. Feel your feet on the floor, here. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in peace. Breathe out love. Let us yet again enter into sacred shared time of sustaining and building our beloved community.
I bring you greetings from the Unitarian Universalists of Petaluma on this joyful and celebratory day. I invite you now to make a connection with your own breath, your own body, your own being, as we enter ever more deeply into this truly celebratory occasion together. We gather for all of the reasons that have been named. We gather collectively on this day, on an exquisite afternoon, a time of hope and celebration. Picture in your mind's eye the beauty and glory of the natural world of which we are a part right here. Picture the rolling hills of the Bay Area, the moss under logs, the bright petals greeting us as spring unfolds in its infinite array of splendor around us. Imagine in your mind's eye the sparkle off of the water here in the Bay Area. Let us come into a deeper sense of placefulness right now. We come together on sacred, unceded land. We honor and acknowledge the original inhabitants of this land, the Ohlone people, who continue to move forward in calls for justice and self-determination. May we, who uphold Unitarian Universalist values, remember that we are part of the unfolding story of these lands. By our words and deeds, let us be dedicated to the furthering of justice in our times. We give thanks today for the gift of this extraordinary community and this incredible minister that you have chosen. May a sense of renewal and joy be with us then. Let's gather into a sense of purpose on this day of installation, on this corner of the beautiful and fragile earth. Remember the birthing of new possibilities because it's spring, which has been named. Let's remember deep roots and bright new shoots, and that you and Reverend Brian will undertake a shared ministry of beauty and possibility. Holy source of mystery and wonder, may this journey yet unfolding be a source of immense and collective blessing. In the name of service and justice and love, may all that is holy bless your unfolding journey together as you open up a bright new chapter. May this be a day that gladdens us all, heartens us all, reminds us of the vision of what is possible when a group of people champion a courageous and loving vision in this world. Dear all, we know our time is but brief upon this planet. Let us make it matter, amen? Amen. Let us make it matter, singing of wonder, giving praise for all of the sources of liberation and connection that compel us to meet the call of this world with the yes of our lives. Yes to this day. Yes to this day. Yes to this sacred and amazing and joyful day. May it be ever embodied, all of the moments that you share with one another. May blessings be with you all. Amen.
Amen. As we've already heard, an installation service celebrates the beginning of a shared ministry between community and minister. It's filled with celebration that you have found partners in one another with whom you can work toward your mission. It's filled with hope and promise. This certainly holds true today. That you, beloveds, you've already been able to live into this promise together. And today is an opportunity for an enthusiastic yes, a yes to what you have created together already, a yes to continuing in to share in the joys and the work of what is yet to come, a yes to continuing to embody love together. You as a congregation get to say yes to the thoughtfulness, care, humor, love, and invitation to vision, that you have found in Reverend Brian. You, Reverend Brian, get to say yes to the commitment, to the love, the creativity, and the dedication to creating beloved community you've already experienced, and the people of UUFRC. It is a gift to be able to bear witness to this enthusiastic yes today. On behalf of the staff of the Pacific Western region, with its over 200 congregations and covenanting communities, and on behalf of our Unitarian Universalist Association's Director of Congregational Life, Jessica York, Executive Vice President Carrie McDonald, President Reverend Susan Frederick Bray, and the over 1,000 congregations and covenanting communities in our Unitarian Universalist Association, among whom you are one, I extend greetings and congratulations to you all on this joyous occasion. Blessings on the shared ministry of you, Reverend Brian, and this beloved community at UUFRC.
Good afternoon. I am Marlyn Bussey, and I am one of the co-directors, along with Dr. Penny Nixon, of the Peninsula Solidarity Cohort. We are a group of faith and clergy leaders who come together to work on issues of social justice together. And we first met Minister Brian when he came to our cohort during COVID. And so we were all in our little boxes, and he right away was just one of us. He fit right in. And then COVID was over and we had an in-person meeting. And that is when Penny and I realized that he was twice as tall as both of us. That was a surprise because in the little boxes you can't tell. But Brian has become such a wonderful part of the Peninsula Solidarity Cohort. He's even stepped up in leadership. He's now the chairman of the Environmental Justice Subcommittee, and he's just doing such good work. When I came to St. James 13 years ago, an article was written for the Daily Journal, and the title of the article was Pastor and People, A Perfect Marriage. And that is my wish for you today, Brian, that you as minister of this house and you as the people of this house would just have years and years and years of fruitfulness, of productivity, and of unity. So blessings on your installation day. Thank you for allowing me to be a part. God bless you. Amen.
Greetings. I'm Charles Dumond, and I serve as co-moderator of the Unitarian Universalist Association, along with the Reverend Meg Riley. It's a blessing to be with you today. Thank you for inviting me. I am also a member of the UU congregation in San Mateo, and I have visited this church many times. I've been especially inspired by this congregation's dedication to social justice. Several years ago, San Mateo and Redwood City worked together on a beloved conversations curriculum. We had facilitators and participants from both congregations, and we met at both facilities. So we would move the course materials back and forth between the churches. One part of that curriculum was to create a timeline on a big piece of butcher paper that showed events related to racial justice and injustice in California, in our congregations, and in our personal lives. These events were then dated and then affixed to the timeline with little Post-it notes. Imagine this large sheet of paper covered with Post-it notes that had to be moved between San Mateo and Redwood City. Now imagine, as we removed this from the wall and attempted to roll it up for transport, there was a shower of Post-it notes falling and scattering upon the floor. We picked them up, saved them, reattached them when we unrolled at time at the next site. And it was not a perfect process, so little bits of our histories got left at one another's churches. Since then, we have worked together with religious education programs. I remember going back and forth between San Mateo and Redwood City as a facilitator for an OWL program. And more recently, we've shared worship services. So as this congregation and Reverend Brian develop their shared ministry together, I also look forward to continuing collaboration between San Mateo and Redwood City. I also told Reverend Brian, if I came here as co-moderator of the UUA, I would need to say a few words about General Assembly. He agreed. So the theme of General Assembly is Meet the Moment, Reimagining Radical Faith Community. This year's General Assembly is a multi-platform event, including some in-person attendance in Portland. And the first radical reimagining is to actually create a multi-platform experience. So you can register to come in person. There is a virtual delegate-only registration that is free. So we've tried to eliminate cost as a reason to prevent congregations from having their complete set of delegates participate. So come in person, come online, make sure all your delegates can participate. So, once again, congratulations as you honor your shared ministry together. Congratulations on choosing one another.
Good afternoon. I am Reverend Erin Walter, and it is the greatest joy to be here. Reverend Brian generously served as my teaching pastor in Austin, Texas from 2014 to 2017, where we discovered our mutual love for coffee and for music and other things. And it is just an honor and a joy. And to see Isla, and to see Natalie, and to see colleagues, to make new friends. I've been singing that song at Peter and Beth's house. I hope it hasn't been too annoying. I've just been so excited, and now we're here. It is a good day. At Wildflower UU, back in Austin, that's where I found my way into leading bands with Brian's encouragement. You may or may not remember some of these things that I'm going to share. My theme song, The World's on Fire and We Still Fall in Love, that I played for this congregation when I first guest preached for you over Zoom in January of 2021. I didn't expect you to clap. I'm just helping. Thank you. I didn't expect you to clap. I'm just helping us jog our memories from this slog of a pandemic. It's so good to be with you in person. But that song took shape after Brian and I were sitting in the grass one day outside of Wildflower, and he encouraged me to write about both joy and pain, to try to express the fullness of humanity. And that is good ministry, to be present to that fullness of life. In return, I consider it one of my great achievements, getting Brian to sing a solo in the Wildflower Band. And in my final year of seminary, I came to his office with a proposal for my final project. It was about small group ministry. I think maybe you call it chalice circles some places, and it is a wonderful and vital thing, but not the thing that gets me up in the morning. And so Brian listened patiently to my proposal in his office and said, "This is good, Erin, but don't you want to do something about music and the arts?" Yes, I did. I just hadn't thought I should. It was a real turning point for me, and I thank you. A chance to choose to live as the Black liberation theologian Howard Thurman from San Francisco advised, and what has become my mantra: don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. Now, as a Black liberation theologian, I'm sure that that message means something very particular to the Black people that Howard Thurman was talking to, and I think it is important that we all hear that message. Alive. alive and kicking. So we had a barrage of theological questions in that pop song. Let's go into it. What you gonna do when things go wrong? When it all cracks up, when love burns down, when flames go up? Who is gonna come and turn the tide? What's it gonna take to make a dream survive? To calm the storm inside? Who's gonna save you? Whew, no pressure. Big questions for an installation, and the answer to pretty much all of them is community. Not individualism, not bootstraps, community. There is no true safety in this life like community. When we come through struggle, grief, loss, and feel stronger or more peaceful or like we've learned something, it's not because suffering is inherently good for us or that we deserve it. That is dangerous theology. It's because we had a loving community or the resiliency learned in one somehow that helped bring us through. Just as there are many words for the holy, community is one of the many words for love. If justice is what love looks like in public, as Cornel West has said, community is what love looks like both in public and in the quieter, more private moments of our lives. We'll talk about some of those private moments in a moment, but first the public. So when I was last with you in November of 2021, still on Zoom, I had just begun my role as minister and executive director of the Texas Unitarian Universalist Justice Ministry. That is the state action network of Texas. Perhaps you've heard we need this kind of ministry. Whew. A counterpart to your UU Justice Ministry of California. I hope you're in touch with them. So we organize UUs to bend Texas toward justice, to represent our values in the public square. So that Adrienne Maree Brown reading that Brian chose resonates especially strongly with me. And I want to read a key piece again. If love were the central practice of a new generation of organizers and spiritual leaders, it would have a massive impact. If the goal was to increase the love rather than winning or dominating a constant opponent, I think we could actually imagine liberation from constant oppression. We would suddenly be seeing everything we do, everyone we meet, not through the tactical eyes of war, but through eyes of love. Thank you, Adrienne Maree Brown. Think about that in a family or a church conflict. What if the goal was not to be right, but to increase the love? Has Brian asked you his favorite questions? What do you love, and what breaks your heart? Those are good ones. So today I ask us to think together about what it means to love our communities and what it means to have a shared ministry that is love-centered and that will weather the inevitable heartbreaks of being human and living in community. Here's some. We can commit to loving this community, to giving people the benefit of the doubt in our interactions, and actively showing our openness to change. Will you say with me, I commit to loving this community? I commit to loving this community. We can approach new experiences and perspectives in church with curiosity rather than judgment, contempt, or debate. The devil, my friends, needs no advocate. Will you say with me, I choose curiosity? I choose curiosity. Now, maybe this is just me, but we can reply to the newsletter or the minister's report or anyone's report with appreciation and a yes to a call to action before we point out a typo. or better better yet, we won't point out typos at all if it's too late to fix them. Will you say with me, it's okay if there's a typo? It's okay if there's a typo. All right. The key is to spot mistakes where we can humbly learn, and then let the rest go if we can. And here's a big one for loving church community. Think intergenerationally. And by that, I truly mean all generations. Age is a funny thing. I think my mom is watching. Hi, Mom. My mother, who raised me, and I discovered a few years ago when I was in my 30s and she was in her 60s that each of us thought the other one was middle-aged. For some reason, I referred to her as middle-aged, and she responded, Erin, you're middle-aged. And it was just incredible, and it kind of tells you how long I'm planning to live. So anyway, in the UU church world, though, my fellow 40-somethings and I are often seen as young adults. That does not always feel like a compliment, friends. So, I just ask you to ponder. I say that a thriving shared ministry means seeking the input and seeking to meet the spiritual and functional needs of people in truly every decade and situation of life. Respecting the wisdom of children, teens, college students, frontline workers, working parents, professionals, retired folks and elders, people of all ages with disabilities, looking to toddlers and teens to model awe, delight, and resilience, especially after these last couple of years. Whew, parents, my heart is with you. So those are some bullet points. And then I want to share with you one story from the Texas UU Justice Ministry that I've not shared with anyone else yet. Yesterday, coming to the Bay Area was my second time on a plane since COVID-19. The week before that was my first. I sat next to a young woman who was nervous because she had never flown before. My mother and I have never flown, is how she put it. And she took video as we ascended to send to her mom. And I felt 2 generations of joy in that experience of flight as she gasped, "It's so beautiful. I would live in the clouds. I would live in the clouds." I was on that plane last week as a chaplain with this new flyer and 19 other young women flying from Texas to New Mexico for safe and legal abortions. This is what we have come to, and it breaks my heart. To any elders here who are heartsick over the destruction of the civil and human rights that you have fought for, I promise you, we will never stop fighting. And that is a fight to increase the love. Still, I'd rather focus on the community of that day than the politics today. It was a long day. Reverend Daniel Cantor of First Unitarian Church of Dallas, co-organizer of this interfaith program that sends chaplains to support these trips, at 5 a.m. on the way to meet all of them, he said to me, "The chaplain's role is mostly to be present to the needs of the travelers." And of course that's true. When you get right down to it, that is all of our roles in community. To be present to each other on our journeys. That is what Brian is here to do with you, and you with each other. Several people at home asked me why we didn't just drive to New Mexico. It would be cheaper to fundraise the costs and perhaps less risky for drawing unwanted attention, and that's possibly true. But these young women, and it's not always women, but in this case, these young women knew what they need to get back quickly to their children, their jobs, to the lives the state is so cruelly disrupting. So if you attended General Assembly in 2017 in New Orleans, as Reverend Brian and I did, you heard Brian Stevenson, author of Just Mercy, urge us to get proximate to people who are experiencing oppression and to listen to them. Those who are closest to the problem also are closest to the solution, he said. And indeed, on this New Mexico trip, private moments of vulnerability and respect, pockets of community were made in mere hours as these travelers were chaplains to each other. They can relate to their experiences, trying to work from their laptop while they wait to go to the clinic, having to get a shift at a factory as soon as we land that night, picking out a dress to wear to prom the next day. The hard decisions of where to live when your parents are kicking you out or you have broken up with an abusive boyfriend. But there is one thing that I, as a UU chaplain, could offer these people that many had never heard before. The voice of a person of faith saying, God trusts you. You are loved as you are. So many of them told me what that meant to them to hear. From Reverend Daniel or from me, they couldn't believe a church was on their side. They were in awe that it even existed. And so that brings me back to you, to Reverend Brian's installation and the shared ministry that you will all have with him here, I hope joyously, for many years to come. So many people do not know. Frankly, I think most people have never heard of the beautiful, challenging, life-saving, life-giving theology of Unitarian Universalism. That we are all beloved, that we all have inherent worth and dignity and are connected. This is not a religion where you can believe whatever you want, even if you've heard it said that before. It is a religion where your liberation and the liberation of the person next to you is one. So I ask you to turn to the person next to you and say, your liberation is my liberation. Your liberation is my liberation. I mean it. Thank you. This is your chance with this new ministry to be bold, to tell people about it, to start your letters to the editor with, as a person of faith and a Unitarian Universalist, as a member of the UU Fellowship of Redwood City, because no one is going to know unless you tell them, and it is life-saving. Last thing for you. Reverend Brian and I were in the Pride Parade in Austin a few years ago, and folks outside a gay bar, as I was handing out wildflower cards, said, are you sure we're welcome at your church? And I said, I'm sure, come. Now is the time for you to be in places where people are not sure, and you be sure, and you love, you amplify the love, find a way, in a way that's present, not in a way that's pushy, we know we're not like that, but in a way that's present, It can change, it can save people's lives. Reverend Brian is one person, a person I love and admire, and I'm thrilled is here, and he cannot dance alone. He is here to dance with you. Blessings on this shared ministry, on the joyful and justice-making years ahead of you. Congratulations.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Steve Hill. I'm going to take you on just a little bit of a journey through the process we went through to end up here. During my last year as president of the Board of Trustees here and Reverend Gretchen's last year as interim minister, we got down to the business of trying to find a new minister. The people who volunteered and were chosen by this congregation to handle that work were Erika Pretell, DeeDee Stovall, Tracey Fecher, Bill Welch, and Cal Sloan. I know at least 3 of you are here. Could you come up? Cal and Tracey and Erika. They began their work in the summer of 2019. Through many hours and meals, they compiled documents. Come on over here, closer. Yes. I want to get you, make sure we get you on the camera, so someone come over on this side. Okay. Yeah.
We're the search committee.
Yes. And did you find anything here? They reviewed numerous applications, made lists, checked them more than twice, and narrowed a field down to a short list to formally consider. Part of this was a detailed questionnaire for this congregation to try to help us figure out just what the heck we wanted in a new minister. This is where their cat herding talents really was severely tested. In March of 2020, they had whittled it down to 3 candidates and began the in-person pre-candidating part of the search. This was done by them without any other members of the congregation. Of course, this is also when COVID was just getting started, so they had to shift gears and do a lot of this remotely. The first pre-candidating weekend was in person at a neutral pulpit. The second was at an empty neutral pulpit, but because congregants were not allowed to attend because of COVID. And the third was an entirely virtual because of COVID. It was messy. And then in April, things shifted gears again. The search committee failed to get a match meaning the UFRC and the candidate both selecting each other as a preferred choice. Search committee was crushed. Come on, show some remorse here.
It was really sad.
Thank you.
I was ready to quit.
Tears were shed.
Many tears were really, truly shed.
Yeah. But they chose to continue on to the second round, where there were a limited number of churches and candidates still in search. It was in this second round that we found Brian, or was it that he found us? Brian missed the
first. He had his eye on us for a long time.
But you see, Brian missed the first round because of shoulder surgery. So in early May, it happens. We have a match. Sermon dates are set up around the annual meeting time. A final congregational vote is set after the second sermon, and poof, we have a new minister by a unanimous vote. That's amazing. We never agree 100% on anything.
A miracle.
Now all we had to do was meet this person. Finally, on September 18th, 2020, I went over to the Oakland airport and picked up this guy with an amazing accent, who I have to look up to, and brought him to his rented room and then down to his new church. Cal did say, and I'm sure the others would agree, that this was the toughest and most rewarding volunteer effort they had ever participated in here. And so far as I know, none of them have provided Michelle Hunovan any stories about their experiences for her new novel, Search, about a UU church in California's search for a new minister. But I do have the book on hold at the library so I can read for myself and check it out. For all they had to endure through COVID restrictions, not finding a match the first time, and a compressed schedule, I think we owe them a huge thanks.
Congratulations.
Hi, I am Chris Stovall. I am your board president. I am thrilled to be here leading us in these words of installation. After this search, and we've gotten to know Brian over these past couple years, it is awesome that we are at this moment. So there's things we have to do. This is the way it works. I say some things, then I ask you to join us, and there'll be words on the screen. And then Brian will speak, and then we'll finish it off together, and then we'll get to say yay. All right?
Let's practice. Yay!
Yay. Okay, so here we go. Within the Unitarian Universalist movement, the authority to choose a minister lies wholly with the congregation, with us. Similarly, a Unitarian Universalist minister has the freedom in choosing the congregation that they serve. It is truly a joyous and meaningful occasion when a congregation and minister join together to formally celebrate and honor our covenantal relationship of mutual trust and support. This is what we do today with this service. So now, will the members of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Redwood City please rise in body or spirit and say these words together on the screen. We, the members of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Redwood City, pledge our commitment to shared ministry with you, Reverend Brian Ferguson. We cherish our religious community, its affirmation to the inherent worth of all people, our free and responsible search for meaning, and our use of the democratic process. We invite you to speak the truth as you see it. Guide us and our children to seek the wonder and mystery of life. Challenge us in acting to our ethical concerns. Be present with us in our joys and sorrows. Celebrate the principles of our faith and serve us with love and kindness. Present ourselves so far as possible to walk with you in unity of spirit, in the bond of peace, in love and truth as we see it. We formally celebrate your presence now as our minister. Turn it over to Brian.
It is with true joy, appreciation and gratitude that I now formally accept the shared ministry to which you invite me. I will keep alive the meaning of this great honour and acknowledge the profound responsibility you bestow upon me. Our ministry will be enriched by the spirit and trust we give to one another. It is with this understanding and faith that I pledge myself to continue our mutual spiritual search, to nurture curiosity, enthusiasm, and questioning, to encourage growth and sensitivity, to listen, to love, to challenge, and to support. I will continually strive to put love at the center of all our relationships and be with you in your joys and celebrations as well as your sorrows and struggles. May we together foster a sense of mystery and wonder about the universe and act courageously in the quest for spiritual growth, compassion, and justice.
And now we say these final words together, and they'll be on the screen. We do hereby install you as our minister here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Redwood City. May our shared ministry continue to flourish and be a source of love, hope, healing, and justice for us and the communities around us. This is the part where we say, yeah! There's more. There's a little more. So to mark this occasion, we would like to present this gift to Reverend Brian as a symbol of the covenant between us. Right, yes.
You want to get on my knees?
Thank you, Brian.
Already getting photographed.
He was ready to pray. I'm Tovis Page. I'm a member of this fellowship, and I'm also a candidate for Unitarian Universalist ministry with this beloved community as my sponsoring congregation. Let's pray. Spirit of life, known to us by many names and no name at all, we give thanks. Thanks for this joyful conjoining of intention and commitment between Reverend Brian and this beloved community. Thanks for those who have come before us, whose visions, covenants, and co-ministries have led us to this moment. May we honor that past by the future we create together. Spirit of love, who saves and heals us daily, fill us with your transforming power. Guide us, love, and support us in our shared ministry so that we may seek the truth in love and practice compassion in all that we do. Spirit of justice, whose call is ancient and ever-present, awaken us again and again to the truth of our interdependence. Be our conscience and lend us courage to name and uproot sources of exclusion and oppression in ourselves, in our congregation, and in the wider world. Support us in working with our community partners to shape liberating and life-sustaining change in San Mateo County and beyond. Spirit of grace, who knows our limitations and frailties, accompany us on this journey of co-ministry. Inspire us to listen more than we speak, to acknowledge our vulnerabilities and mistakes. With your help, grace, may we practice forgiveness and know we are truly never alone. Spirit of joy, whose energy heals, replenishes, and delights, keep kindling our flames. With joy, may we celebrate all that we are now and all that we may become together. May the joy that we feel today return to us again and again in our faithful practice of co-ministry. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.
Reverend Brian Murray Ferguson and the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Redwood City, I am so glad to be here and to be able to be a part of it. Brian, you are my friend, my colleague, and quite often you have been my mentor. I have always valued your wise and principled advice, and so I'm really honored to be able to turn that around and offer you the charge to the minister. So it's 3 points, okay? First one, always be in beta. I don't mean to stereotype, but I'm going to assume that some of the folks in your congregation understand what that means, be in beta. It's a concept that I got from our colleague, the Reverend Meg Riley, and I encourage you to embed it in the culture of that congregation and embed it in you. What it's about is about experimentation and not being afraid of failure. We have no idea, no one has any idea what the post-pandemic church is going to look like. And so there's a lot of freedom in that, a lot of freedom to explore. And so I hope that you can follow this idea, the whole congregation, of always being in beta. What that means is that when you're experimenting, you don't let the fear of failure box you in to where you feel that you have to be able to plan for every eventuality before you even begin. Instead, you come up with a good and responsible plan, and then you jump into it. And you accept that it's not going to be perfect. You accept that there may be some things that don't work really well, and when that happens, you shrug and you say, okay, what can we learn from this? How can we make this a little bit better? But you also say this, you say, you know what, this is normal and expected. Because if we are pushing ourselves far enough to experiment, then there's going to be little things that we're going to need to tweak. So be willing to tweak. That's tweak, Brian, not twerk. So number one is always be in beta. Number two, make leaders. I'm not going to speak for you, but speaking for myself and a whole lot of our parish minister colleagues, the last couple of years we have been over-functioning. I don't know that we could have done anything else. There was this small matter of a global pandemic going on. But that's not what we're here to do. And your congregation, your folks just now, just committed themselves to shared ministry with you. I'm going to go old school here. So, because we are Unitarian Universalists, right, everyone? And so we look for wisdom wherever we can find it. This is coming from the book of Ephesians. It says that the job of what we do, the job of clergy, is to equip the saints for the work of ministry. To equip the saints for the work of ministry. Brian, I love you and I respect you, but you're not a saint. Those folks in this context, your folks, they're the saints. They're the ones who are called to do the work of that congregation. Your job is to equip them to do that, because we know that when we are able to get as many people working together, that's where transformation happens. And it happens not just transformation of the world, but transformation of every individual who is a part of it. We talk a lot in our UU world about burning coals, right? That's that thing that is so important to a person that it drives them to give their time and their energy to make something happen. They become involved. Here's the thing though, being a 7th generation Texan, I know a few things about barbecue and coals and campfires and things like that. You know what happens when you take one of those hot coals and you move it over to the side where it's no longer in that mound? It goes out. It turns cold. But when you have a bunch of hot burning coals all together, they can stay burning for days. And it's amazing the power of what a group of passionate people can do together. So equip them by making leaders, not solo rock stars, people who will work together and collaborate and coordinate and congregate. Equip the saints for the work of the church by making leaders. And now number 3. Brian, you had quite a few years here in Texas. I hope that people there in California are starting to get used to your Texas accent. You know that Saint Molly Ivins was a powerful influence on this state and continues to be, and dear Lord, we need it. She has this advice, and I know that this will be advice that you can take. She said, so keep fighting for freedom and justice, beloveds. but don't you forget to have fun doing it. Lord, let your laughter ring forth. Be outrageous. Ridicule the fraidy cats. Rejoice in all the oddities that freedom can produce. And when you get through kicking ass and celebrating the sheer joy of a good fight, be sure to tell those who come after how much fun it was. So there's number 3. Have fun. Do fierce ministry with these people because the world so needs it right now. But don't you forget to have fun doing it. So, be always in beta, make leaders, have fun. BMF. Brian Murray Ferguson, there's a little... May the ministry that you share with the UU Fellowship of Redwood City be blessed with fun and fruitfulness.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, colleagues, friends, and family. Just slightly different. And good afternoon, beloved members of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Redwood City. It is so wonderful to be back. I am the Reverend Ellie Kilpatrick because of you, and it is truly an honor to be offering the charge to the congregation today. I'm currently serving the folks across the bay in Livermore, but the wonderful people here in Redwood City ordained me and formed me into the minister that I am. I know from experience that Reverend Brian is lucky to be serving such a loving congregation because I had that privilege during my ministerial formation. Having had the benefit of being both a member of UUFRC and a ministerial presence, I like to think that I have the best of both worlds in knowing both the gifts and the struggles that UUFRC has when it comes to entering into partnership with a minister. One of the aspects of UUFRC that I truly treasure is that the members are never afraid to be curious. Curiosity and questioning are hallmarks of UUFRC, which is part of what makes it such a place for potential spiritual growth. That was one of the reasons I knew I'd found a home when I walked through those doors 7 years ago. I remember when I first started attending UUFRC, I found the community to be so warm and welcoming. Genuine excitement to find out who I was. But I also got the sense that there was perhaps a little bit of anxiety about whether I would truly love the congregation as you did, whether I would ultimately be one of you. And I couldn't quite put my finger on this until Reverend Gretchen commented on our inability to form coherent circles. Because for quite some time, our circles were seriously abysmal. Empty spaces on one side, 3 rows on another, shapes that definitely did not resemble anything continuous. But when Gretchen pointed it out, it made sense. Because in a weird way, we were afraid of the intimacy and vulnerability that a circle provides. No one was afraid to join a mishmash of chairs, but a circle was asking us to engage in the truth that creating one large circle asks us to be one community. No insiders, no outsiders, no distinguishing between newcomers and longtime members. And that is hard to do when a community has had as many ups and downs as UUFRC has done, because it's natural to seek distinction to a degree, and a degree of insulation. But in my time with you, I also watched you invite the vulnerability to open your community to a deeper spiritual growth. And it was an incredible thing to witness. They're a lot better at circles now. But I'm guessing it's been a while, so I'm going to invite you to be patient with them.
Always in beta.
Yes, exactly. But in seriousness, even with the incredible growth that I witnessed, one of UUFRC's consistent struggles has been sorting through what a healthy balance looks like with their minister, in which the ministry is shared, the relationship is mutually caring, and the boundaries remain strong. Don't worry, most churches struggle with this. So please know that there is no judgment with naming this struggle. But my charge to you, as you begin a beautiful new ministry with Reverend Brian, is to see this moment as a covenant, a beginning of a relationship in which you assume that Reverend Brian will bring the best intentions, and where you seek to remain open and curious, like I know you are, where you offer him grace to stumble and return, and you offer that same grace to yourself. The point of prioritizing your covenant is that it doesn't ask for perfection of you or of him. It asks for you to keep the relationship in mind, and when either party has made an error, to take responsibility and seek restoration. Trust is not always natural for us to give. And I imagine it's even harder with the strain the pandemic has put on our hearts over the past 2 years. But a successful covenant calls for trust, and it goes both ways. Reverend Brian sees the loving and vivacious congregation that you are. That's why he chose UUFRC, and you chose him. So even when you may disagree with him, and let's be honest, you will take issue with a lot of things he does or says, because we are Unitarian Universalists after all, and questioning authority is kind of what we do. But trust that he is aiming to grow along with you and seeks to help this congregation thrive. If nothing else, trust the shared intentions to see UUFRC blossom. Because when you do, a collaborative ministry with mutual ownership of its successes and failures will result. That is when the relationship between minister and congregation is at its best, because everyone is serving the mission together with no hierarchy of belonging or love. Community doesn't need to quantify investment. It simply needs to seek journeying in ministry together. That was the gift that you gave me, along with this beautiful stole. Different dimensions, though. So give the gift of your authentic self, friends, not just to Reverend Brian, but to the mission of UUFRC. Because Reverend Brian will be doing the same. And working together, I know this partnership can thrive. Bless your ministry to each other. Bless your ministry to Reverend Brian. And bless your ministry to the world around you. May you always know your potential and worth. And may we take joy in the journey of growing together. Blessed be. Ashe and amen.
This chalice represents the energies we give and take, we share. It's not just about thinking about what we do and getting a good plan. Our hearts must be there deeply. This flame represents who we are and how our energies touch each other. So, as we extinguish this flame, let us keep its light and its warmth in our hearts. Help us share its message of love, hope, and justice to the communities around us. May each of us, each one of us, bless the world in the spirit of love and know that we take one another's spirit home with us to keep the flame alive. Blessed be.
I'd like to invite everyone to stand for the closing words. And if you feel comfortable, if you would place your hand or connect with the person next to you. If you don't feel comfortable being touched, if you could cross your arms. And I invite my colleagues on the chancel to come down and not leave me standing here by myself. I'd like to invite Natalie and Isla if you'd like to come forward. I think the answer was no. For once, I may be lost for words. The ultimate feeling I have right now is gratitude. I have gratitude for everyone who made this happen. I have gratitude for Jessica Stoudemire, who's still over at Red Morton, where we're all going to head now. You're coming, Jessica. But I invite you to join me in the sense of spirit of love for the benediction. This is a community of love. It's a community of spiritual growth, of compassion and justice. And may we find a way in this community to transform ourselves through our search for meaning and transform the world around us through acts of love. May we love ourselves, may we love our families, may we love our neighbours, may we love each other in this community, and may we take that love beyond these walls into Redwood City, to San Mateo County, to the Bay Area, to California, to the US, to the world, because what the world needs now is more love. It is a hard time. The pandemic's been hard. We have wars in Ukraine. There's division in our country. And as Adrienne Marie Brown said, what we need is a revolution of love. Love for one another and love for yourself. So let's take that love beyond these walls and love the hell out of the world, as my colleague Reverend Joanna Fontaine-Crawford so often preaches. Let's love the hell out of this world and let's love each other, and let's do it with fun and joy. Go in love, go with love. Blessed be and amen.